Welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. Tonight, Senator Kamala Harris, one of the most high-profile political figures in the country right now. She's with us for a rare local interview. The issue is the government shutdown. How long can Democrats wait for President Trump to blink? And speaking of blinking, an exclusive of sorts. Blink if you're running for president.
Alex, you're really good. You're really good.
But wait until you see what she did next. Also joining us, Congresswoman Karen Bass, the new chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. On this weekend that honors Dr. Martin Luther King, both Harris and Bass talk about how Dr. King impacted them. The Issue Is starts right now. And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. Our guest is the senator from California who a lot of Democrats hope will be the next president of the United States. Senator Kamala Harris, welcome to The Issue Is.
Good to be with you, Alex. Thank you.
All right. And because you are in the Senate right now, we are not allowed to talk about your book, The Truths We Told, congratulations, or the potential presidential run. But
and let's also not talk about the children's book, Superheroes Are Everywhere.
Okay. We didn't talk about it. But we can talk about the Senate business. And there is a lot of Senate business to get to. First and foremost, the government remains shut down.
Yeah.
What, if anything, are you and Senate Democrats willing to compromise on to get the government back open?
Well, Alex, first of all, let's just talk about the harm that is occurring each day that the government is shut down. And it is a harm to the American people in terms of the services they're not receiving. We have over 40,000 Californians who are affected by this shutdown, who are not able to work or are going to work every day and not getting paid. And this is now the longest shutdown, government shutdown in American history. And we're talking about people who have taken an oath to serve the public, who are now standing in lines for food banks because they're having a difficult time making ends meet. It's just wrong across the board. And to put a fine point on it, the president cannot hold the American people hostage over his vanity project, which is what that wall is.
But Republicans point out that in the past, some Democrats have voted for some version of wall funding. They've certainly supported border security. Is there any amount of wall funding that you would be willing to support if it meant getting the government back open?
Listen, we all want border security and have been proponents and advocates and fighters for border security. We all want our border to be secure. But the point is, don't hold the American people hostage over this wall. We can have that conversation, but get the government back up and running.
Let's talk about another topic in the news this week, which is the nomination fight over Attorney General William Barr, who could potentially become Attorney General again. You had very aggressive questioning of him this week.
What do you imagine the facts would be that are relevant to the recusal?
They could be innumerable.
You've said that you're not going to support him. Do you feel more or less confident about the integrity or potential independence of the Russia investigation after hearing him say that he's friends with Robert Mueller, that he doesn't believe it's a witch hunt? How do you feel about the Russia investigation going forward if he becomes Attorney General?
Well, to your point, Alex, I was heartened to hear him say that it's not a witch hunt, because of course it is not. One of the first priorities that I have as a member of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee is that we do everything in our power to allow Bob Mueller to complete his investigation and take his investigation where the truths and the facts lead him. So that was heartening. But the concern I have, the real concern I have, is that this nominee refused to say that if the career people in the Department of Justice, who are the ethics people, advised him to recuse himself from the Mueller investigation, he refused to say that he would actually comply with that recommendation. Even Jeff Sessions, the outgoing and the last Attorney General, complied with that recommendation. So it leaves me to wonder why he would not agree that if the career professional people who are concerned with ethics say, hey, guy, you really shouldn't be a part of this, why he wouldn't listen to that.
Another big issue that you've been fighting on is that of election integrity. You've sponsored some legislation with a Republican senator from Oklahoma on this issue. Are you concerned about the integrity of this next election? Are you confident in the process for 2020?
We are now pretty clear that we need to have paper ballots. People say, why do you need paper ballots, Kamala? And I say, well, it's pretty simple. Russia can't hack a piece of paper. But we need to give the states the support and the incentives to actually upgrade their systems. That's what my bill aims to do. It's unfortunate, however, that the leader of the Senate has not put the bill on the floor for a vote. And so that gives me concern because, to your point, Russia interfered with the election of the President of the United States. And we should assume that they will do it again if we are not stronger and smarter in the way we defend ourselves and our democracy. Because part of the strength of our democracy as a country has always been that we have free and open elections. And it is well established that part of Russia's intention is to compromise the American public's confidence in their democracy, including their election system.
This week, we had this report from the New York Times suggesting that the FBI was concerned that President Trump may be a puppet of Russia. Do you share that concern? Are you concerned that President Trump is a puppet of Russia?
I am concerned about all that required a special counsel to engage in an extensive investigation into what exactly happened around the election in 2016 and who was involved and what was their motivation. And I'm eagerly waiting for and anticipating the outcome of that investigation, which will obviously allow us to draw conclusions based on facts and evidence.
Last question. This is MLK weekend, and also on this show we have your colleague, Congresswoman Karen Bass, who's now the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, coming on to talk about Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy. What do you see as Dr. King's legacy, and how has his life helped change your life?
Dr. King was someone who understood the best of who we can be, and he fought to that end. And he aspired, as we all do, to create a better nation. And he represents, for me, someone who understood the commonality among people. We are a diverse country. It doesn't mean that we don't have anything in common. And at this moment in time, when there are so many powerful voices that are trying to sow hate and division among us, honoring and remembering Dr. King's legacy and his work and his words is critically important. The vast majority of us as Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. And we have to hold on to that and reject those people who would suggest it's us versus them. That's not who we are as a country. But we're going to have to fight to remind people of that.
Well, Senator Kamala Harris, thank you. There are rumors, of course, is that you're going to announce your presidential run on MLK Day, and I know we've said that you cannot say anything about it in the Senate, but they didn't say anything about body language, so blink if you're running for president. I think I saw blink.
Elex,
that's
you're
an
really
exclusive.
good. You're really good. I'm going to now just keep my eyes open and not even blink.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate the time. Again, congratulations on the new book. We hope you'll come join us here in studio. And when you do, we like to play music in our studio. So in your honor, you can't hear it right now, but we are playing a little Tribe Called Quest in your honor. Check the Rhyme,
great.
which I know you love to dance to. Senator Kamala Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Elex. Thank you.
And up next right here on The Issue Is, as we mentioned, Congresswoman Karen Bass on MLK and a whole lot more. Stay with us. You're watching The Issue Is. Breaking late tonight, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's office now disputing parts of a bombshell Buzzfeed article that alleges that President Trump directed his then attorney Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about a potential Trump Tower in Moscow. Buzzfeed standing by that story tonight. Earlier today, I spoke to Congresswoman Karen Bass before that Mueller statement was issued. She is the newly elected chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus.
That's right.
Congratulations on that. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, let's get to that bombshell news story involving Buzzfeed this week. How does that change the way you think about the Trump administration and this investigation?
Well, it's just more and more information coming out that shows that he's committed crimes. Now, I'm on the Judiciary Committee. So what you saw was to a news outlet. We will be able to do hearings and provide oversight, because the fact of the matter is, for the last 2 years, there's been no oversight of this administration. So let's just see what's there.
So the Atlantic's cover is quite dramatic.
Yes.
It has the words impeach on
yes.
it. This raises the question, because some of your colleagues now say that if this Buzzfeed article is true, it is a clear example of obstruction of justice.
Right.
So do you think if this article is true, the president should be impeached?
Well, you know what? Even more important than the article, it's not just a question of hearsay. It's also that Mueller actually had the information via text messages and other things, and they went to Cohen and said, we know this is true, and he verified it. The bottom line is that if that's the case, you're talking about a potential felony, and even though most of us don't want to go to impeachment because we have so many things to do, I'm afraid that we're not going to have a choice.
So if that's true, you have no choice but to impeach the president.
I guess that's going to be the case. We'll have to see. That alone, I don't know, but we will see.
That's quite something to say. Meanwhile, the government remains shut down in all of this.
It does.
Speaker Pelosi saying the president should not come for the State of the Union. The president saying that Speaker Pelosi should not go on this trip that was planned. Do you think the president has a point that if it's not secure for him to come for the State of the Union, the speaker should not be flying around the world and go into a war zone?
No, actually, I don't think that. I think that those are different subjects, because you're talking about the military. And the president did something that actually, I don't know if it's ever been done before. When we travel internationally, we never tell people ahead of time. So he really compromised the security of the speaker and the other members that were going.
What agreement would you support to make this shutdown end? Is there any border wall funding at all that you would support?
Well, you know, I think in the agreement that the president agreed to, because remember, he did agree to it, but when 2 radio talk show hosts criticized him, he backed away. So we are calling for border security, and there's all sorts of things in what we proposed for border security. The wall, even if we gave him $100 billion, the wall is on private property. It would have to go through eminent domain that would be tied up in courts for years. And ironically, the part of the government that's shut down now is the part that protects the border.
Another big story that's just breaking today is that the president wants to meet with Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, again next month.
That's a nice diversion.
So you think that this is just a distraction, that this is being announced?
Well, nothing came out of the first meeting. And if you're going to talk about how critical North Korea is, do you realize we don't even have an ambassador to South Korea? I think this is completely theatrics. Nothing came out of the first meeting. So what is the purpose of the second meeting, other than to distract us?
Okay, let's go to another topic, which is Martin Luther King's legacy. You are now the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, which are obviously dealing with the issue of race all the time. How has Dr. Martin Luther King changed your life?
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King changed my life in a profound way. I was a child when he was assassinated, and it was because of the work that he did in the civil rights movement that led me to make a commitment that I would devote my life for continuing that legacy, to fighting for social and economic justice.
How are we doing on his dream?
Well, I think that we are doing good in some ways, and then in other ways, you know, with the election of this president, it's been a step back.
Let's talk about the broader question of race in America. Our first guest this segment was Senator Kamala Harris, who is probably running for president, let's be honest, right? Are you concerned about her running as an African-American woman in America today? Are you worried about racism being lobbed at her?
Well, sure. Although, you know what, she can certainly handle it. She knows that that would be what would come. But I will, of course, would worry about her safety.
We want to play some games with you, right?
Okay.
We want to play a little music as well, because we play music here on the issue. So this is Rise Up, which is one of your favorite songs. We're going to be playing the name game. We're going to get her thoughts on women in power, and I'm going to share my all-time most embarrassing story of my entire career. Stay with us. You're watching The Issue Is. Why do you love this song so much?
Because of what it means. Rise up. Yes, yes. And to me, that's what I'm all about, is not just me rising up, but getting others to rise up.
Yeah. This is Michelle Obama's one of her favorite songs, too. Who run the world? Of course, Beyonce says.
That's
Girls
right.
run the world. A record number of women now serving in the Congress, including both of our guests tonight. New York Times actually highlighting that. You see that right there. That is Democratic freshman Katie Porter from Orange County. Inside, pictures of both of our guests tonight, Kamala Harris and Congresswoman Karen Bass. Some really beautiful portraits of all of the women in the Congress in the New York Times. Congresswoman Bass, welcome back to The Issue Is. So, how are female legislators different than male legislators?
Well, you know, I think women lead differently. I think women are more collaborative, less competitive, and very, very supportive of each other. And we were very excited to see so many other women join us.
We do something on this show called the name game. There's a little more Beyonce. So that's the theme this one. This is where we pick one word to describe some pretty well-known political figures, okay? So you ready to go?
Sure.
So the first one is President Donald Trump.
Pathological liar. Well, that's 2 words.
Vice President Mike Pence.
Occult follower.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Tough as nails.
Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
My friend.
Senator Kamala Harris.
A fighter, fearless.
Governor Gavin Newsom.
In a great position. I'm sorry, you wanted 1 word.
Yeah, that's okay. Congressman John Lewis.
A hero. The most respected member in the House of Representatives.
And as we think of MLK weekend, it's great to think of him as well and all that he's done for American history. All right, we want to do something else called personal issues. This is where we get to know you. We put 30 seconds on the clock and get to know a little bit more about you. So, ready? Here we go. Favorite book?
Favorite book? Fear.
Favorite LA restaurant?
Ooh, Natalie's.
Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
Meal that you cook the most?
Salmon and spinach.
Best thing about being a Californian?
Oh, God, that we live in a bubble.
Favorite nickname?
Susie.
Last movie you saw in a theater?
Vice.
Dine in or take out?
Take out.
Red or white wine?
White wine.
Susie, why is that?
That's my nickname that I grew up with.
From Karen to Susie?
Yes, exactly. My family calls me Susie.
My most embarrassing moment professionally happened with Congresswoman Bass, a story I've never told on TV, so now I guess I will tell it. So I was interviewing Congresswoman Bass at her home, and I saw this beautiful view that she had, and it was nighttime, and I asked if I could take a picture of that to post on Instagram, and I went into the backyard to get closer to take this picture, and all the lights were out because she wasn't expecting me to do this, and I'm in my suit, holding my phone, and I walk on what I thought was the grass. Turned out it was the pool. Fell into the pool in all of my clothes, and holding my phone.
And I was horrified.
And she's screaming out loud. What went through your mind the moment I fell into your pool?
Oh my God, I was horrified. 1 was your safety, first of all. And 2, I wanted to know if you were going to be on camera right away.
Yeah. Well, she handed me a towel. I somehow ended up being on camera, a little bit wet later that night. This is a picture of me handing back that towel.
That's right.
When I got to say thank you. So thank you for being nice with that.
Oh, absolutely.
And hopefully there's no security camera footage, because that could be opposition research, as they would say in the business, for some later day.
I was just glad you were okay.
All right. Well, it's great to have you, and I'm glad I'm back and I'm okay too. Congresswoman Karen Bass, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you for sharing your views. Up next, you think that this week was a crazy week? We're going to explain what may have been the craziest news week ever. And here's a hint: the song that's playing right now, a little Stevie Wonder. That's a hint for that week. Love this song, right?
Yes, absolutely. And remember the time.
See your best move.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Ever feel like Howard Beale did back in the 1976 film Network after getting through the news week? Doesn't it feel like we're having the craziest news week ever, week after week? Well, it's important to keep some perspective in this era where everything is termed the biggest or the greatest. Historian Michael Beschloss helping us with that perspective. On Twitter, he pointed to this very same week 45 years ago. On January 20th, 1973, President Richard Nixon was inaugurated for a second term after one of the largest electoral victories ever. Of course, that term would be cut short by his subsequent resignation. 2 days later, after that inaugural, President Lyndon Baines Johnson died in an ambulance plane on his way to the hospital after suffering a massive heart attack at his Texas ranch. On that very same day, one of the most momentous Supreme Court decisions ever was handed down, Roe v. Wade, which found a constitutional right for a woman to undergo an abortion. And 5 days after that, the Paris Peace Accords were signed, bringing a formal end to U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. That week, the #1 song in America was Carly Simon's "You're So Vain." And all these years